This is Rabbi Aaron Boxt once again from Ocala, Florida, otherwise known as Rain City Central. We've had quite a bit of rain the last few days or week, and we've got a lot more coming. But right now, the sun is shining, and hopefully, some of that water will dry as we have more water, more rain coming this afternoon. We got lots of rain boots and umbrellas, rain gear, and maybe we'll have a few extra boats. Maybe we'll build an ark. Who knows? But anyway, what I want to talk about this week is an article that I read. I read it recently, but it's been out for a while. A woman who was shot, a white woman, who fatally shot a black woman, a neighbor, through her front door. Has finally been arrested on manslaughter and other charges. So, a little background to this case. The African American woman was, her name is Ajike Owens, or AJ. Her children were out playing in front of their yard near in the neighborhood, and one of the neighbors, a woman named Susan Lorenz, decided that she had had enough and threw a roller skate out her front door and actually hit one of the children in the foot. And the children then went to her house to ask what happened, and she swung an umbrella at them, among other things. And then the mother, AJ, came back to confront this woman and was standing outside of her front door and demanding that the woman come out and speak with her. And the Caucasian woman, Susan, fired a gun and shot AJ, who eventually died in the hospital later on. Lots of things have come out about this case. The Susan Lorenz had made lots of comments to these African American children, had said lots of derogatory slurs at them over time. Clearly was a racist woman, is a racist woman, and she was using the Florida Stand Your Ground law, which basically in layman's terms, allows a person to shoot first and then answer questions later. And thankfully, although it took quite a bit of time, but thankfully this woman was arrested and charged with manslaughter, and will, God willing, be serving quite a bit of time in prison. However, this is just one case of many that have happened in the state of Florida. Of course, the most well-known one was when Trayvon Martin was shot by another half white, half Hispanic man who, again, was claiming stand your ground. And this is really not a great law. I mean, it's kind of like the stop and frisk law in one way up in New York, except that instead of, you know, stopping someone and checking on them, which is also wrong, this basically allows a person to shoot someone if they feel quote unquote threatened in any way, even if it is determined later on that they weren't threatened. And I'm reading about this woman, Lauren Smith, who was a witness who lived across the street. And she was on her porch, and the AJ Owens children were yelling, "They shot my mama! They shot my mama!" And she ran across the street and was trying to do chest compressions and keep her alive until the ambulance could get there. Unfortunately, AJ died later on in the hospital. But what is this world coming to that we think shoot first instead of answering questions or asking questions? My family and I were in Lowe's last night, and we were getting something for our home, and we needed something from the very top shelf, so we got an employee to bring one of those little, I guess, one of those raisable platforms that it's electronic and it's motored. And this employee was pushing it over, and there was another man in our aisle who was standing there and kind of went, hello, when she was coming around the corner like she was going to hit him. And both Botch and I kind of looked at each other like, well, you could move. You see this big machine coming. And then we thought for a moment, maybe we should keep our words to ourselves, because you never know. You know, this guy could be carrying, and he could pull out his gun and decide that we've threatened him and we're in trouble. So, you know, I don't really want to talk about gun control or anything like that, but there is an unusual and unnecessary amount of gun violence, not just in Florida, but obviously also in Florida, but throughout the country. When did protecting ourselves mean pulling out an AK-47 or a shotgun and just shooting at someone just for the sake of shooting at someone? That's not what, I don't believe that's what our founders had in mind when they decided to include the right to carry arms. I believe the right to carry arms was meant to protect us from, you know, for our military not to protect us from our military, but for our military to protect us, or to protect ourselves from real life intruder emergencies. But a person standing at your door and yelling at you or talking loudly at you is not someone who is intruding on you. It causes a headache. It's mind numbing in a way. To think about all the school shootings and mall shootings, how easy it is to get a gun in this country. It's harder to get a driver's license. It's harder to get a boating license. It's harder to get an airline, a license to fly an airplane than it is to get a gun. And, you know, there's a lot of people that say, well, if you make stricter gun laws, people are still going to get guns. That is true, but that doesn't mean, if 1,000 people are getting guns at will, and then you make a stronger gun law and 700 of those guns are no longer on the streets, yeah, there's still 300 guns on the streets, but that's a lot less of a risk. A lot more of a chance of being in a mall and not having to look over your back to make sure that someone's not coming to shoot at you, or going to a movie theater and being safe that you're at a movie theater. But anyway, getting back to this particular case here in Ocala, I love it when the city that I live in gets on the news, but only when it's for the right reasons. And this case is not the right reasons. The stand your ground law in Florida needs to go. It is just, there's not, in my mind, in my opinion, there's nothing good about this law. And I stand by that. That's it for this week. I'm throwing a lot of opinions out at you, and I hope that if you have questions, you'll come to me and you'll approach me, and I hope that you have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you next week, or I'll speak to you next week.